Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ontario Cryptids. I hope you all enjoyed your week and are enjoying your weekend. This week seemed to have gone by rather quickly. Before you know it, we'll be putting up Christmas decorations and getting ready for the holiday season. So let me slow down a little bit of your time today by sharing these encounter stories. And by the way, if you have an encounter story that you would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story with like-minded people. If you've been enjoying my content, why not take a quick second to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. That way, you'll never miss out on the latest episode and you'll be joining a community of like-minded individuals. Let's keep this journey going together. Thank you for your support. Now, let's get things rolling, so sit back and relax as we begin with today's episode. This first one takes place on June the 5th of 2024. We're going to Columbiana County, Ohio, and the nearest town is Calcutta. I was driving from my home in Glenmore along Bell School Road, headed for Beaver Creek State Park. I noticed a large dark object in a cut cornfield as it moved slightly to the left and raising up. I realized that it was a living creature that seemed to be in a squatted position, looking to be a dark black. Because of its size, it seemed not to be a person and didn't have the features to be a black bear. Its shoulder width I would estimate to be between 35 to 40 inches based on the spacing of where the corn was. I've had other encounters with these creatures in the park area, with some of them being recent, but I've never seen anything. I believe this day that changed. I just wish I could have gotten a photo. I drove to the park and then went back, but what I had seen was gone. This next one takes place on May of 1980. We're heading to Faulkner County, Arkansas, and the nearest town or area is Conway. Let me first say, this incident is not made up. There is absolutely no doubt what my father and I saw. Neither myself nor my father would have any reservations about a polygraph test. It was my 11th birthday, therefore my father let me miss school to go to Lake Conway, which is known for its carpy fishing. We were in a boat with a small outboard motor, in a cove tied up to a stump which was in the water. For 10 to 15 minutes there were noises in the woods like limbs breaking continuously. I kept telling my father there's something in the woods. It is very thick brush and cypress trees. But he continuously said, "Son, it's just birds." I was fixated, 25 feet away on the noises, so I was just looking in that direction constantly. My father was turned around looking away from the shoreline. All of a sudden, it just came out of the woods and stood there. I can honestly say that I could not talk. This has never happened before or since. I finally got my father's attention and said, "Get the hell out of here." My father whipped around and said, "Oh my gosh," and then he pulled out his .38 and drew on the animal. It never did anything except stand there. It was obviously not aggressive except for the earlier breaking of the limbs. My father then untied the boat, started it, and we kept circling around for at least 10 minutes. I will not break my father's anonymity in the community, but let's say he was very well known in a town of 20,000. Therefore, we never went public with the story, but we still talk about it all the time. There is no doubt it was one of those things. Bigfoot, or someone in a great costume in central Arkansas on a weekend waiting in a cove way back in the lake to scare someone. I'd like to think of myself as somewhat of an intellectual, and my father has his doctorate. My point is that if it was a joke, then that person risked death because my dad had a gun pointed at it from 20 feet away. This next one takes place September of 2010. We're heading to Crawford County, Georgia, and the nearest town is Fort Valley. In September of 2010, I was supervising a work detail of 6 males near the Crawford County and Peach County and Taylor County, Georgia lines. Our assignment was to clear trees and bushes from the right-of-way off the bridge located on GA Highway 96 near River Road intersection. The time was about 9 a.m. The area was wooded with lots of trees and bushes with large thorns on them. The weather was partially cloudy and light winds. Upon entering the area, several of the workers along with myself noticed a strange odor, which I dismissed as probably a dead animal. They began removing the overgrowth by using bush axes, which when leveling trees make a loud thud against the trees. At that very moment, I had the feeling that we were being watched. The fact that I nor the other workers had no weapons made me a little nervous, so I began to be very visually alert. In the distance of about 50 to 60 feet behind us, I noticed a sound of movement. My first thought was, since the wind was blowing, it was just tree limbs blowing against one another, but the movement became persistent, and there were what sounded like muffled grunts, so I asked one of the co-workers to come and take a look and tell me what he saw. His reply was that it looks like someone is peeping from behind a tree. We observed this for about 20 seconds after his reply, and then the movement stopped just as it had started. One of the workers saw a rabbit, cornered it and killed it. He then skinned the rabbit with his bush axe. I asked him, "Why did you do that?" His reply was that he wanted to cook the rabbit for food. I told him that we didn't have time to cook the rabbit because it was now lunchtime. So he hung the skinned rabbit from a tree with a small piece of rope. The work was about 6 feet 2 inches tall, so that rabbit was at least 6 feet high off the ground. We went to the top of the bridge to our bus and ate our lunch. Upon returning to the area, we noticed that the rabbit was gone. We talked amongst ourselves about what happened to the rabbit. Work resumed, and I noticed the sound of running water. I moved to find the water. To my amazement, there was a shallow creek. As I got really close to the creek, I noticed what appeared to be footprints in a muddy bank area. But the bare footprints had appeared to trample the large thorns. I thought to myself, this has to be one of the workers playing a joke. So I called them all to come and see the creek. They all came and were astonished at the creek. I didn't show them the footprint at first. I asked them all to take off their boots and hold their feet close to the footprint that I had found. Nobody's foot size matched those prints. I jokingly said, "I guess Bigfoot made them." We all laughed and went back to work. Almost immediately upon the sound of the first bush axe hitting a tree, we heard the sound of a large limb breaking in front of us. We all ran up to the bank and towards the bus. We hightailed it out of there. I went and reported this to the contractor that we were working for. He stated he had heard strange noises coming from that area before, so he granted us another assignment. Years after this incident, I started to watch Finding Bigfoot, and I noticed some similarities to my experience. I have returned to the area several times since, but never went underneath the bridge again. This next one occurs in the summer of 1992. We're heading to Franklin County, Arkansas, and the nearest town is the Ozarks. The witness lived on a property adjacent to a very large, deep and steep-sided mountain hollow formed by the South Fork of White Oak Creek. On the day of the sighting, the witness and her 2 daughters climbed down the side of the hollow to check on her 9 or 10-year-old son and their 12 or 13-year-old cousin who camped along the creek. The trek to the base of the slope took hours of careful travel and frequent rest stops along the way. When they reached the narrow canyon floor along the creek, they could hear the 2 boys calling to them from their campsite further up the creek. The 2 girls were allowed to start walking towards the camp, but the witness sat down on a large rock beside the creek to rest for a while. While sitting there, she noticed something shining in the water and was preoccupied with trying to determine what kind of object she was seeing. By the time the 2 girls had reached the campsite, she could no longer hear the 4 children talking. While looking intently at the shining object in the creek for several minutes, the witness had a strong and sudden feeling that she was being watched. She slowly turned to look down the creek and up the creek and then carefully scanned the bluff and terraces across from her position. She saw nothing in those directions, but she still had a growing feeling of being watched. She then turned around on the rock to look up the steep slope she had just traveled. She froze when she saw a large human-like being staring on her from a sharp ridge about 100 yards away. The witness stared at the animal for several seconds and mentally recorded details of its appearance. While her eyes were fixed on the animal, she heard all 4 children laughing and shouting as they ran towards her. She immediately stood up and started walking to intercept the children. She quickly looked back towards the ridge, and the animal was gone. She hurriedly gathered the children and started walking cautiously back up the wall of the hollow. As they approached the area where the animal had been standing, they could smell a strong rancid odor like that produced by a large male bear. Hours later, they climbed out of the canyon and returned home safely. The bipedal animal was about 9 feet tall with dark brown hair that was about 3 to 5 inches long. The hair covered all of the body, including the back of the hands. There was no hair on the face, just below the eyes. The neck was very short and the head sat close to the shoulders. The animal was lean but very muscular, especially in the upper torso. There was a strong rancid odor like that produced by a large male bear. The witness's son-in-law has also seen one such animal. Well, that will wrap things up for this week. I hope you all enjoy these encounter stories, and I hope I was able to slow time down, even if just for a bit. Now, let's acknowledge the current OC members. I would like to thank Elizabeth, Jim, Diana, and Teresa for the contribution and support as members of the OC community. Your support is truly appreciated. Join our exclusive YouTube membership program and unlock a trove of perks for just $2.99 per month. The perks grant you access to special emojis, membership badges, direct interaction with our members, and myself by obtaining access to the OC Discord channel, where you can join in on our weekly members chat, as well as early access to my content plus more. Don't miss out on the adventure. Become a member now and join us today. If these encounter stories reminded you of one that you may have had, then please forward your encounters to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story with the OC community. Thank you all for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit the like button on your way out and smash that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all my latest episodes. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you all next week right here on Ontario Cryptids.